Hello, everyone. This is Juanita Kapp from the Meticulous Moments podcast, where we facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. And I have a very, very special guest here with me this evening. He's a very good friend of mine. I've known him for multiple years, and he is a phenomenal artist. And he has had this incredible, call it an enlightening, call it a realignment. He's going to share about that more. And his name is Ant, and not the type of ant that you step on, not at all. More like Ant-Man from the Marvel collection. And I'll tell you why, because we just had a discussion, and after a 10-year long span of battling with something, he has come out victorious. But I will let you listen to how he shares his story. How are you, Ant? Welcome.
I'm very honored to be here, Juanita. Thank you for inviting me. And yes, I'm honored.
Awesome.
You're so
Awesome. And now we had a discussion, and as you were talking about your experience, because you sent me a quote the other day about timing, and I mulled it over into in my mind, and you were going through your schedule, and I was going through my schedule, and we were saying, you brought it up. You said when the time is right, we'll get it done. We'll get here on our interview. And when you were discussing with me what happened to you recently, I thought about flow, getting back into your flow, getting into alignment with yourself and the universe. And I feel that's the kind of experience that you had. But I want you to tell the audience what
okay.
happened, because it's so
Let,
amazing.
let, let, let me tell you the backstory. I always knew as a young age, although I had an incredible musical career, I played with so many great artists and been validated by them all saying, "Oh, I'm the favorite guitar player." Mike Oldfield, Jimmy Page. I was managed by Peter Grant. Jimmy Page, I met him. Um, and he didn't directly, but he told Peter he really liked my playing, which was, and Slash, when I played with him in London when he came over to, anyway, we did the press room, and he said, "I know you," because he used to watch me playing, opening up for AC/DC in the 80s.
Right?
And so he was there, and that's how he recognized me. We're still dear friends. And, the last time I saw him, I hadn't seen him for years, and I looked very
Yeah.
different. But as soon as our eyes lit, his face shone. It was
Right.
like, so he's a lifelong friend,
Yeah.
and I got to play with him as well. So that was, anyway. And my daughter just passed, and he dedicated knocking on heaven's door to her. And
Oh,
also, and he, to Natasha, traveled with him in his limo to Mick Jagger's 50 party for this because him and Ron Wood's daughter Leia went to school together. So and I wasn't, I'd split with my wife, so I didn't have the confidence at the time.
yeah.
Although I'd done a lot of stuff, I wasn't doing anything, and so I didn't want to impose on the
Yeah.
relationship that I wasn't part of. But I wish I had, because I know that Slash and Ronnie were, so close. And I also used to play snooker at the same where Jimmy White practiced, and our eyes met. And I was waiting to tour, but my self-confidence to approach
Yeah.
it, and our eyes met. We definitely had and
Moment.
knowing, and of course, him and Ronnie were very close friends. So,
Yeah.
but you know what? I don't mind it anymore, because it just how it was. And now,
Exactly.
and so, and I've got many other times where I've met someone like Mutt Lang. You
Yeah.
know, Malcolm. We became close friends after the AC/DC tours, and so he invited me over when he was, in town, and and he played me the album after we toured with him, the next one after For Those About to Rock, and I said, listen to it, and I said, Malcolm, that's you playing drums, and you said, yeah. Phil had to leave. And that's the closeness we had. And he was very honest. And Mutt was there, and we
Yeah.
really nice, and he was really nice. And then, like 2 weeks later, I had this beautiful silver Daimler, and I saw him outside his studio on
Yeah.
Kilburn Road. Zomba, it was called. And our eyes met, and I'm like, why would hell wouldn't I just stop and say? Because I wanted to. Well, he was my, and I just drove forward. I had something stopped me. I had fear, anxiety, and it was like I had the 90% there, and like there was a repellent, like a
Mm.
polar, it was in my
Yes.
brain, and I just couldn't stop. And of course I regretted it at the time, but I figured, well, now that's all broken through, thanks to God and my willing to challenge.
Amen.
And I want to share something. When I had my lung cancer with brain mets in 2002, I had a Venezuelan girlfriend
Yeah.
who was being, she had an Amazon chief wanting to marry her,
Right.
right? And so they shared their latest definition of cancer,
Oh,
right? And it's verbatim.
yes.
Cancer is a non-negotiable consequence of not fulfilling your full potential in life. And
Wow.
that was
Mm.
it was it was tailored for me.
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
mean, but and that gave me uh I mean, it totally applied to me because
Mm.
because and you know, everyone says to me, you sorry, procrastinate, and
Procrastinated. Yeah.
so sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
but procrastination is not being lazy; it's
Mm-mm.
being dysfunctional through
Yeah.
anxiety. And a lot of people, you know, my mum used to say, stop, you know, but she didn't understand, and I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And only recent, the same with addiction. You know, they shouldn't be
Yeah.
locking people up unless you're a dangerous society. But people, alcoholics and stuff, they have it's a trauma,
Mm,
and
mm,
they need to
mm,
be treated somehow. And it's only come autism again. That used to be considered a brain, you know,
mm-hmm.
dysfunction.
Disorder.
It's a
Yes.
gift. It's a gift.
It is. Some of the smartest people in the world are autistic.
Yeah,
They're only
exactly.
understanding that now.
Yes, exactly. But there's a TED talk about, you know, someone saying the same thing. You know, it used to be called a mental disorder. No, it's
Mm-mm.
obviously there's a spectrum where you become
Gifted.
just, you know,
Yes.
but I think we're all on the spectrum. I certainly am.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too. I'm
Yeah,
definitely not the normal type of person.
but,
I
but it's
I'm more the empath. Like energy is a big thing for me.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, you
Yeah.
know, we were talking about the first interview, and when I got told by my oncologist the first time after my surgery, brain and lung, and when I was given a 30 to 40% chance of being cured by my thoracic surgeon, I went back, saw Julie Bramer at Johns Hopkins, and expecting a similar, you know, and I said, so you know, what are my chances? Expecting 30, 40. She said 10%. What? To get cured? No, living more than a year. And
Hmm.
at that point, and I
I've
remember
never had.
I knew I it wasn't a reaction, it was a deep response.
Mm, mm.
And I said, well, I'm the 1% who's going to go on for another 50 years. And you
Yes.
said,
You remember
and
what
you
I
said,
said?
yes, you said you made a decision, which I spoke to the universe and God, and I meant it. It wasn't like a reaction. I'm afraid I'm going to say that. No, it was a response, which
Yes.
is a big difference. And I've actually got a little note on my kitchen light switch saying respond. No, wait. 5 to 10 seconds and
Yeah.
respond. Don't react. And
Good.
I fun. And I'm practicing that. Sometimes it comes out of stop, and I like because once you say something, you can't take it back.
Mm,
So,
that's
so it's
true.
best to
That's
say
true.
nothing and
Mm,
then respond accordingly. I mean, but what I did all my life, I'd either react or I say nothing, but then I'd get moody because I couldn't find a way to respond. And then everyone thinks, "What's wrong with you? You're moody." And I didn't, I couldn't say it. So it went against me because I wasn't able to respond.
yeah.
Now I'm learning, get it in the, nip it in the bud, but don't be, hostile about it. Nip
Yes.
to say, you know what, I've thought about that. Yeah, I may have been wrong there.
Yeah.
I'll try.
Awesome.
And another nugget of lovely this conversation. This guy said, out of all the things that have gone wrong with my life, I'm the common denominator.
Well,
That's
if the book
that
fits,
that
right?
what I mean is taking responsibility of your
We
part if
have
something
to.
goes, not blaming everyone else.
Yeah.
You're part of it, and you
Introspection,
probably, yeah. Well, it's actually accountability as
ownership.
well for
Hmm.
for me,
Yeah,
because a lot,
I
lot of,
see it as taking ownership, you know. I could have done
yes,
better in that
yes,
situation. I always tell people the choices you make is the life that you live. I made those
yes,
choices. It
but
made me end up in that situation or that situation. And then I
yeah.
can process it better. Like you said, don't project it onto other people. Look
Mhm.
what you
Well,
could have done different.
the thing I've experienced, and the timing is perfect because that has only happened over the last 2 weeks, if that. I was at the, I mean, I was going to lose everything,
Yeah.
literally, and I had no, I'd
No jokes,
run out of
really.
resource, and
Yeah.
at first I was full of anxiety, two
Mm.
days, and then I thought about it. You know, God hasn't led me to this place and given me all these challenges that I've
Mhm.
took on, with honor and grace, always up for the challenge. And he's given me so many hallowed, I mean, we'll talk about that later, but the final, the timing is, because we had to postpone this interview a few times, but it's
Yes.
perfect because now I've had a transformation in my life. And now, and when my daughter passed away, my wife at the time, she went to a clairvoyant, and
Mm.
didn't know about me, and she picked up on, the dad, and she said, sorry, I've got a message for your dad. He said the words will come, and they've just opened up now in the last week. I,
I'm
I'm
sad.
free flowing writing. I've written lyrics, but they're all not. I mean, I think they're trying to be, but they're not really from the heart. They're just a bit of, but they're not really.
Artistry.
But I'm now can write from the heart. I mean, I wrote a country based theme,
Oh,
right, and it's.
nice.
And I managed to rhyme. I mean, it's very corny, but it's a start. But then I realized I can turn it into any genre. But the meter just goes like, turn the lights down, like,
Yeah.
put the music, let the blues. Oh no, put. Turn the lights down low, right? Let the music flow. We can dance all night until the morning light. Then like we
I
used
like it.
to do. Yeah, very simple. But then I started rocking it up, and I spaced it out. Turn it right there, down, down, down,
You
down, da,
make
da,
it
da,
rock.
da, down, down. And it doesn't matter. A good lyric can be any genre.
Exactly.
And this,
Exactly. Especially if you
and
know music like you and I do. It can be transformed into a completely different genre. And
yeah,
it can really be like you said, it can be transformed.
yeah. and it's I mean, it's opened up the words. I mean, because I've always wanted to write lyrics, but I've
That
never been able to
connection.
connect with my heart. But now, the best, you know, I feel more complete in
Yeah,
the because I've been like this all the time.
yeah,
My first experience of being frozen when I was 2. I was my dad was across the landing. He couldn't see me because I was at a slight angle, and all I wanted to do, I was in the doorway, and
yeah.
you know, why wouldn't I go over and tug on his shirt and say, "Hi, Dad"? He wasn't abusive. He was a lovely man. He left and married the au pair girl.
Oh, snap.
but this was before that. But even at that age, because I think I had some stuff that happened to me as a baby, not abusive, but it very
Shape
much
you.
attention on my, you know, my nether reason, and so that made me freeze from then on.
Yeah.
And every time in my life when I really want something, there's like a polar, you know, like two similar
Like an
poles.
obstacle type of, yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's yeah. Anyway, so I've broken that. I got rid of
good.
that just in
Yes.
the last week.
I'm so happy to hear that. Guys, Ant and I, when I was still in South Africa, I'm streaming from Texas now, but when I was still in South Africa, we were 7 hours ahead. So it would be like 3 or 4 in the morning, and Ant and I would be on a Zoom and we'd be having an interview or listening to music or talking about lyrics. And the journey that this friend of mine has been through, the losses, especially with the cancer, and it's just
Well,
incredible how
losing
it's
my
faced.
losing my daughter 5 years
Losing his
before that,
daughter.
and I justified it by
Yes.
knowing that cancer is a sign of spiritually
Not.
grief. I mean,
Yes.
lung cancer.
Lung cancer, and I think what connected us was the music first of all, and our
Yes,
love for lyrics, and putting a story through the music, but also the fact that you went through that cancer trial, and my mom died from cancer, so we were like,
I
that
know.
was a
Well,
talk point for us. We helped each other to grieve. You would
exactly,
always be like my
exactly.
brother, and
Yeah,
it's just amazing how
but
you
but you
had
know what
this
was
revelation in the last week with everything just coming together for you.
but you
I'm
know what
so
was
happy.
amazing about the time when she passed. The the I went first with my first wife, and we didn't. But and we had a Roman a Catholic priest lead the
Oh,
life, and I respected it, but I didn't have any connection. I'm Jewish, right? So the next day, my brother, his now wife, my then wife, Lorraine,
yeah.
were there, and probably my mum, I'm sure. But anyway, so and then during this scholar, like he's like a rabbi, but he's a scholar at Cambridge University. So he read the Lord's Prayer in English, and still, then suddenly he did it. He read the Lord's Prayer in Hebrew. Now I don't
Oh,
speak Hebrew, but the tones. So immediately, right, and I didn't want to, something grabbed my chin, and I was staring at the far corner of the ceiling away from everybody, but something, I had this incredibly silly grin. I was just, and I realized there was a connection going. It was like a radio signal, but without any information. They were setting up
Holy Spirit.
they were setting up a communication, and even my
Yes.
kettle fell off, and I know Natasha would have laughed at that, right? So and so after that, I asked everyone to give me 5 minutes, and of course they did. It was in the
Good.
viewing room, and she was laying there. So I first of all I said, "Darling, I was here to protect you, and
Yeah.
I didn't. I'm so sorry." And then from the deepest place in my soul, I looked up and I just said, "Why?" But it wasn't. It was the most all the emotions in one, like from the deepest place in my soul. And you know what
That's
happened?
all.
imagine, like within seconds, I saw this, like about maybe a foot circle, a region, and eventually these little triangles, which I figured out the meaning, but they were like playing dodgems, about seven of them, and
Like
whenever
a,
whenever they nearly when they were nearly, and it was like looking at an old microscope. No, it
oh,
was like grey. Right, that was
that's
their, and
God.
and and as soon as they were about to collide, they just divert. So they never hit each other, but they were,
Yeah.
like, and I was just looking, and this lasted for maybe 5 seconds, and then slowly that they disappeared to the outer. So I was following them, and then they disappeared. And when I looked back in the region, I saw like two cells with one heart beating, and
Oh,
and so
wow.
right, so and what I later, and also I had the wonderful. It was a long drive back, and I suddenly on the way, I had a feeling of like endorphins at my back of my
Yeah.
neck, and it gave me some relief. I got home with my family, and we talked about, celebrated her life for 2 hours, and then I said I don't think I can sustain. But it was, anyway. Looking back on it, I this is what I made of it, and I believe that's what happened. First of all, the whoever, God, the angels, whatever, they were setting up a communication.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm stuck. They were locking me in. There was no information, but it was a communication, like a radio um,
Signal.
carrier beam, right?
Yeah.
So then, and then when I got to ask the question, I got the answer. She had transformed, and God wanted her as an angel. That was a fanfare of angels announcing new life. I'm starting to
That's
cry
right.
because I'm
Everlasting life.
remembering. And also, I didn't mention when she was born, I I was in the surgery because my wife had to have a cesarean, and so, and above the OR, I visualized there was a group of elders with the typical beards, white beards, robes, observing. And when they brought her in, cleaned her up, they put her on my lap. Right now, I was a punk band. We had a band with track records. Kit Lambert was our producer. It was amazing times, and I
Yeah.
had a natural. I didn't invent it. It was just my natural move was to do a scissor kick and a pout. And the first thing she did, the first thing, she looked like a mini me. She had spiky hair, and the first thing she did when she opened her eyes, she did that scissor kick and the
It's
pout.
little sister kick, little rocker.
Yeah, but I mean, it was exactly my move, and it was natural. I
Oh,
didn't make it, and that was her instinct to do the same thing. So
yeah.
I said, I know you're mine. She was, and I mean, she always used to find hits and that were going to be number ones, but they were still
Yeah.
down the chart. And she was like, listen to that, and then
Mm,
like 2 weeks later, it's a number one. You know, like I
that's
think the
right.
first one I remember was Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Relax. I
Oh,
mean that.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and
She was a
it's such a great.
natural.
I mean, it's very genre specific, but it's a great song. And of course, Trevor Horn
Yeah.
produced it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he was the man of the moment. And the band weren't so good live, but the record was
It's very
outstanding.
good. Absolutely.
And and sh-
Absolutely
and she picked,
legendary.
and sh so she could have easily been like an A&R or a
Yeah.
I mean whatever. Yeah. So
It
I
was
remember
in
that.
her blood. It was in her blood, and it's in her genes. It is. That is what
Yeah,
she was
and
born with. She got it
I,
from
I-
you.
and I just want to. I think I've already shared it, but I want to reiterate it. The
Mm.
hardest thing I ever had to do was to close the lid on the casket on my own. So to alleviate that, I slipped a note saying, "Mere death will never break our bond," and it
Amen
didn't.
to that. Amen to that. Yeah,
Again,
you've made her
again.
proud. You have definitely made
Well,
her proud because her memory lives on. Here,
well,
her
yeah.
memory is
Well,
living
but
on.
but it's not even the memory. Whenever it's like almost like McCartney. Let It Be is about his mum appearing when his times were bad, right?
Mm.
So whenever I feel really depressed, I see Natasha. Sorry, that's my living daughter, Karina.
Yeah.
I see her with her arms folded, going, "Dad, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
We'll be together in no time. I want you to basically live your life and get your full potential done this time."
And you're on that road now because
Yes,
finally
yeah,
everything's
yeah.
coming together for you.
But
That
but but
connection is there.
but
I'm
the
so
time
happy.
but the timing is perfect
Yes.
because I've had this, and as I say, the lyrics would come. I thought it might be a
Yes.
bit earlier, but now it's and it's all what's meant to be. I mean,
Yeah.
when I was about three, I was crawling through this converted attic space, and
Yeah.
it was like a box of toys and clothes boxes. So I was like, crawling, and then suddenly there was a clearing, and it was like, it was actually a beautiful acoustic guitar with mother of pearl inlays, and it was shone. And I thought, this is a divine intervention, even though I didn't
Oh,
know what a divine.
nice.
Yeah. So, and it was really telling me this is special. And for
So,
me, it
what
was. I
type
mean,
of guitar was it?
it was acoustic with, but all
Like
I
a
saw it was from the.
Takamine?
Well, it was laying on the ground, so I couldn't because I was
Right.
too small. I was crawling, so all I could see was the back end of the
That's where
guitar.
music meet
But
you. That's where
well,
music meet
It
you.
it it was actually, yeah, I'm a musician, but really, I mean, I remember growing up, I'd watch a movie in the theater and there'd be a guitar hanging on the wall. And I said, why isn't he picking it up and playing it? I would. And it
That's
was
what
obviously he was
it's
acting.
so.
And I'm not the only one who's had those things, but I had it like, and then when I was 13, I think, instead of having a bar mitzvah, I had what's a confirmation, which is a year at Saturday School with a liberal um, synagogue,
Right.
and I knew at the end of the confirmation, I would get cash as a gift, and I knew it would be £100. I don't know how, but I knew, and I
To
bought
buy
my
a
first
guitar.
Gibson. I bought my first Gibson,
Oh my
and
gosh,
and
Gibson is the best. I love Gibson guitars.
but I felt I'd had a deal with
Oh
God because
gosh, that is
because I
great.
I I committed, and I never missed a day, a weekend, a Saturday morning. And there
Yeah.
was, and to give me a more motivation, there was a really cute girl I really had a crush on. So as well as, so
You
he
purpose.
knew exactly, him or she, her, knew exactly what my
What
triggers
your
were,
plans
and
were.
we we never got together, but I had a crush on her, and that was all. And then I managed to recite the tour, the
Part of the
what was it
Torah.
called? Well, it's a aloe. I mean, I can't even think of it now, but
Yeah.
it's a prayer. It's a prayer
Right,
from
right,
the
right.
Torah, and that was
From the
we
Torah.
had to learn it, and managed to do that, and then we got the confirmation and everything, and finally the party I had. Well, I took acid and I passed
Oh
out
my god,
at 13. I gave up. I
that's
gave up.
crazy.
I gave up when on my 16th birthday when I joined Leo Sayer. No more of that, you know. But so I had that experience as well. I actually collapsed
That's
into
life.
this. Yeah, but I missed a party because I took acid and I passed out on this girl, very cute girl's lap for like 3 hours or something. Uh, but I mean, but it was the best experience, and I've always felt. I mean, one thing I said that I always said to people when after part of my one of my you know people work with amazing artists. I'd have my little studio, and I
Yeah.
always mentioned I'm an eternal optimist. I
Yes.
realized that mean I always said that to anybody. I'm an eternal optimist,
But you
right?
are.
What it means, I had faith.
Yes.
That's
And you
exactly
see
what it.
that silver lining around that cloud. We are very
Yeah.
much alike. That thundercloud can be as dark and as brooding, as anybody could imagine it, but somehow, and you're the same, I always see that little silver lining. I go look for it and I focus
Yes.
on that, not on that
Yeah.
cloud that's,
Exactly,
gonna
and
brood
that's
and
that's
destroy.
really referred to, I think, as having faith. You know,
Faith.
and I didn't realize it at the time. I just said I'm an eternal,
Winner right there.
but I knew, and then since I mean, after 5 years of, when Natasha passed,
Yeah.
I developed lung cancer with brain mets.
Yeah.
And so, but I was, I went to see Dr. Doom in England. He said, "Don't bother changing anything." I said, "What? I didn't have a day job. Do you mean don't give up my day job?" And I was being
Yeah. Yeah.
so sad. And yeah, and I so I went back to my neurologist. I said, "I'm not going back to see him." He said, "Yeah, he's a bit sinister." And then I called Paul Reed Smith, who I'd only met a few times, but
Right.
he guitar maker. He's PRS guitars, right? But we hooked up because he was right next to the Marshall booth, and
Mm.
he actually wanted to buy Marshall, but Jim wouldn't have it. But anyway, that's another backstory. But Paul and
So
I connected, and I taught him some free riffs. He was a big
good.
free fan, and we just connected. And then after 2 days, he said, "Ant, I'm going to build you the guitar of your dreams." So I said, "Make it like that one." I've got a 1962 Les Paul Les G Junior, and
That
because
is
and
perfect.
so he said, so he took me to his stand, pick a guitar. I said, that's too wide. That's not quite right. It's too thin. He said, "And that's a millimeter different." I said, "Yes, I know," because I knew that
You
guitar.
know,
So he got his private stock guy, Joe Naggs. Actually, no, it was a friend of Joe. No,
yeah.
I'm sorry. And I have to, sorry, I go back again. He got his private stock guy to build me this PRS one off with my dimensions, exactly as my junior.
That is so
And
amazing.
and
What a
then but listen to this, right? So it was supposed to arrive before the next Frankfurt Messe where we were. And he walked in. I said nothing because it hadn't arrived. And John, who knew Paul because Jeff Whitehorn was doing my job, and then he left to play with the Who, so he recommended me. So I got that gig. And then after 3 days, we were at this bar, and Paul
yeah.
said, "I'm going to build you your car, my guitar
Done.
of your dreams." And I said, "Make it like that." And then he took me to a stand that I said, so anyway, Joe Naggs copied my neck, and I've got this most beautiful one-off PRS signed by Paul, obviously made for me. And he was part of my healing and saved my life because through him, unbeknownst to me, he did and still does pro celebrity golf tournaments with
Oh.
Johns Hopkins Cancer Center. And
Ah.
so that got me on the phone to a guy called Michael Hibbler, who was the patient family coordinator at the time, who Paul worked with directly on these for raising money. And suddenly from Dr. Doom saying I'm going to die slowly, he says what we do is we take the disease out and then we cleanse. And
Nice.
you know, for about half an hour, and then the funny thing is there was a moment he says, wait a minute, you know, you're a guitar player and you're a friend of Paul's. You're probably an international rock star. And I went, yeah. And
You
it was a
are.
bit like Spinal Tap kicked my ass, but not in the same. It just and the more I played it down, because yeah, I'm not. You know, well, but in the industry, you know, I'm very well known,
Of
and
course, of course.
I have fans, but you know, I'm not like a household name, but I will be now because I'm going to fulfill, and part of that is doing what I should have done. I've had opportunities, and
But the timing, like you said, is right now. And
yes,
you are not going to spill the beans, but there is a very big project behind the scenes.
well,
And when it's
yes,
done,
well, there's several. There's my music. I'm writing the book, as we know, and I've just got the ducks are just lying up. Dear friend of mine is a great friend with Mark Victor Hansen, which
yeah,
you know, I mean, and if I get the book right, I'll get at least I'll hope if get a forward by him
you
and
will, I'm
make
sure.
or a connection with the public. You know, just you know, I mean, and I'm ready to show up. That's the main thing.
So happy. I'm so happy. I've seen the progress over the years. I've just seen you evolve, overcome those
Yeah,
obstacles. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so grateful to God for what He
I'm
has done for you through the
I
universe and energy.
I think, well, you know, I'm here for a reason. I shouldn't be here statistically,
Yes,
and God's kept me here, but He's challenged me, and I've
yes,
risen to the challenge. And the last one was really about to lose everything. Couple of
yes.
days of
Very
anxiety, and
grateful.
then I just said to myself, "This can't happen. It won't
Mm-mm.
happen." And I
You won't
started
accept
manifesting.
it.
I started talking to the universe, summoning and saying I've already got the funds that I was expecting, rather than there was a chance but waiting another 6 months. I said no,
It's
no,
already
and
here.
my faith and also
Yes.
my belief,
Determination.
and
Yes.
literally 2 days later, the attorney from the SEC monitor, who you know was controlling, even the company didn't know because it was privy, and
Yeah.
the attorney for the monitor called me and said, "I just want to check your detail." 2 days later, and he said, "I'm going to wire you the money now."
Thank
And
God.
right, and that like I mean, I'm so grateful and blessed. But the lesson I've learned that I never did before, I've had money before, you know, lots of money, but I forgot about what it was like the day before.
Yes.
So of
So
course
now
it went
you
away. But
know.
now, I've got role models. I mean, we was talking about
Yes.
Dwayne Johnson. His company is Seven Ducks or something because that's all he had when he first arrived. And now he's the highest paid actor, right? And he never forgets that. And I'm using his model, and
Good.
I'm going to make my something a company or whatever. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm never going to forget the time just before you know the funds came, and just that fear of losing everything, and
Yeah.
then having the faith to overcome the
Overcome.
anxiety. And I said, no, this cannot happen, and it won't. And then I
Manifest it.
summoned, yeah, and I said, you know, to the universe, I've already got the
Already
funds.
mine. It's already yours.
Uh,
Now that's not the only good news that we have for you, audience, because and also received a MAM Hall of Fame award for 2025 as one of the best music artists of all time, which means He has been etched into history and is also a MAM ambassador now. And I'm
Which
very proud to have you on board.
thank you, thank you. I'm so honored, and it's another thing I feel blessed by you offering me this wonderful job as an ambassador, and I will do everything possible to be the best ambassador I could be for you.
Thank you. And thank you very, very much. I want to tell the audience, don't you think that this is the last of Ant and I on here? We're
Oh
going to
no,
hop on here regularly, and we're going to be working on a project. He is
yeah,
determined, he is fueled, he is in flow. He
but
has
but I'm just
everything in
gonna
his hands.
I'm just gonna ask you. I mean, you can do what you want, but I would like it get the finished book out.
Yes.
Then the promotion will be the interviews,
Yes, that's what
and
we're
we
going to
can
do. That's our
and
plan.
and of course an update interviews afterwards. But
Update interviews, yes,
but
marketing, the whole project is laid out.
then we can start, on the backstory at the time when we've got the actual product. Because
The
the
paperback.
reason I want to make it no more than 100 pages with a
Yes,
novel later, but the
good.
purpose is so I can give back and go and speak about my
Yes,
journey
story.
and
Yeah,
to motivate, because I know about grief, cancer, and the rock and roll life of my career, but anybody's life is not
we
steer.
can
Sometimes you're
relate.
up and then you're down, and so my first title for it was going to be my rock and roll. No, sorry, my roller coaster rock and roll career, and talking about grief, anxiety, and cancer.
Right. And then Ant mentioned something very, very, very cool. And this is what we're going to close with. And I think Ant has froze there. But I don't want to say that phrase because I want you to hear it from Ant. So I'm going to wait for his signal to unfreeze. And I hope he can still hear me. And then I want him to tell you what he is using as a phrase now as we close this session off. I would love for him to tell the audience what is he using as a phrase now in his life. What is his life mantra? And if he doesn't, I think his internet froze. But if it doesn't unfreeze, we will definitely bring it under your attention. I just don't want to. I don't want to give it away. I want him to tell you what his new phrase is. So I'm going to give it about 30 seconds. And then I want Ant to say what is his phrase that he's living according to now. And if he doesn't manage to hop back on with the stream, it's okay. We'll put it in the comments. But what an incredible life! What a wonderful journey he has had. Ups and downs, victories, grief, delays, challenges that people would think is are unsurmountable, and still he made it through. Still he kept, as he said, he held on to that faith. He used his manifestations. He said, not today. This is not the day where I'm going to be facing my demise or the end of my life. This is the day where everything will start over. This is the day where everything will come into place. So I think he is having a technical difficulty. I'm going to close out this session. I'm going to say thank you to everybody that was here online with us. Look at the comments because his one phrase, we're going to put it in the comments. I don't want to spill those beans. I want him to put it in the comments because I thought it was just exceptionally brilliant, and he has to trademark it as his mantra for life. So everybody have a wonderful, wonderful evening. I'll see all of you in the next session. Bye bye.